chromatin types. For example,
अच्छा,
we
मेरी अभी ये क्लास
talk
रिकॉर्ड
about
नहीं
what
होती,
are the
मुझे ध्यान
marks
देना
associated
पड़ेगा,
with
कोई
promoters.
क्लास है तो बाय।
You have various acetylation marks. Acetylation would be there in most of the activating regulatory elements, whether enhancers or promoters. And SUK4MA3 is very, very prominent at promoters. Uh, then we talk about the distinction between enhancer and promoters. And enhancer is particularly associated with the STK27 acetylation, which is very high, and to moderate level the other acetylation. Me1 is higher as compared to Me3. Now, when we talk about enhancer, there is a new term which is coming up. Some of you would have heard about it, and that's called super enhancer. Now, it's a fancy word coming up these days, but we already knew about it. Conceptually, it's not different from enhancer, and in the earlier days, we used to call it as a locus control region. Or we also used to call it global control region and so on. There were those kind of names, LCR, GCRs, ICRs, which is imprinting control region that you will learn in genomic imprinting. But Richard Young and co-authors, they came up with the one paper and they emphasize on this term called super enhancer. So, though many are not impressed with this definition, there is no clear definition first of all. So the typical enhancer is like following. We have a gene and to certain distance away you have an enhancer, right? And the super enhancer is different in a way that, as the name suggests, it's larger, first of all, which means that there would be small enhancers clustered together at certain location. And then they call it as super enhancer. So the average length of a typical enhancer region, which will have multiple cassettes of transcription factor binding sites. So let me put it in this way. You're going to have cassettes of transcription factor binding sites. Right? So this is the typical enhancer, and on average the length is around 700 base pair or 500 base pair, depending upon the length of activated enhancer might differ from cell to cell, right? Now, the length of the super enhancer is quite large, almost 10 times of the usual enhancer, which is around 8 kb on an average. And there is a definition includes, right, you need to have sufficient enrichment of S3K27 acetylase and S3K4 monomethylation. Number one, the enrichment of histone modification associated with enhancer. Number two, they should be clustered, and you cluster based on some distance constraint. Generally, the constraint is like, if these two are uh, certain distance apart, okay, that would be different in different papers, okay, then you cluster them together. And so this is what do we call typical enhancer. What does typical enhancer look? Enhancer TE, and this is your super enhancer. So this is the structural difference, and epigenomic difference is the following. If you plot let us say I take one mark which is associated with the enhancers, S3K27 acetylation. Okay, so label of S3K27 acetylation. What is that label? Determined by ChIP-seq experiment, right? And here are my sites which are enriched with enhancer sites, let's say non-promoter sites, which are enriched, and I plot them in sorted order. The ones which are having lower enrichment of K27 acetylation will be here. This is sorted on K27 acetylation. So it turns out that the curve goes like that. And then there is a phase transition kind of thing. So it turns out that the usual enhancer would lie over here. And then there is a transition to a very high enrichment of enhancer associated histone modifications, and those are your super enhancers. You can have a separation here, right? So you might say, how do we decide the separation? Well, you need to look at the elbow-like structure. Right? There is one distribution like that, and then suddenly there is a phase shift. So this elbow-like or kink-like structure is a very typical thing in the field of genomics, epigenomics, and bioinformatics to decide a certain cutoff. Data itself speaks about where is the rational cutoff. Right, so this is the structural thing about the typical enhancer and super enhancer. Now, what is the difference in the regulation? So, as you could already suggest that you can already guess that S3K27 acetylation is very high as super enhancers, or they might be more, they might have more affinity to the target promoter, and since it has high affinity, it will be attached to the target promoter for longer time, so there will be more transcription. That's true. You have a relatively less level of upregulation of the target over here through this enhancer. While we have the super enhancer transcribes the target promoter at a very high level. That's one difference. And for example, so they can be very, very important genes that super enhancers are regulating depending on what system we are looking at. So people have observed in cancer, the oncogenic genes are the target of super enhancer. In stem cell, this is the original discovery by Richard Yang, that in stem cell, the super enhancer, this locus, is actually enriched by the proteins like OCT4. What else? What are the other factors? Just overshot. OCT4 is one, and then you have 3-4 factors, right? For stem cell proliferation.
SOX2.
Yeah, SOX. SOX and OCT are the same, I guess. No? And they have one.
Nano.
Yeah, nano. Very important. And likewise, there's another one. So they are really enriched with these transcription factor binding sites. And yet another important difference between the two is that is the switch-like upregulation of the target gene in super enhancer as compared to super enhancer. Now, what is that switch-like thing? So I will not get into the detail because that will be your systems biology thing. And if somebody is interested, I can give you the differences. If you know the basic biochemistry, you could know the Lewis equation. This just has So Hill's equation says that, let's say you have concentration of activator over here. So in this case, you can think of what is this activator is the, let's say this could be stimulatory dose This is proxy to stability loads or number of bound sites in your enhancer locus, in the locus, in the locus, whatever, whether that locus is the crypto enhancer, right? How many factors are binding basically. So the other thing is we look at the activity. Activity in this case could be your mRNA transcription of the target gene. But that should be the function of X, right? It has to be some function of X. And that function is actually defined by Hill's equation. Open up your biochemistry books, Langer or whatever, Sinar or this. So this equation says that for activation, this function, the derivation of this function is also very interesting to derive. It's very, very basic chemistry and chemical kinetics and all that. So in one of the courses, we actually derived this system biology courses. So this is given by x raised to the power n by x raised to the power n plus kd, which is dissociation constant. Concentration of x at which the activity is half, right? That's called a dissociation constant. Now this is very similar to this equation looks very similar to logistic growth equation. You need to transform it, you need to make it in that way. It should be some value on the numerator minus the kd and then sum of kd in the denominator. It's another form of this logistic growth thing. Okay, so let's not get into these things. If you want details, literature is out there. You can look at that. So now if I now plot the activity now, let's look at the number of sites here on x-axis, number of bound sites, which is these things. Right? Let's say here you had 200 sites, I think, okay, or 100 sites, I think. And they are bound with various factors or they are enriched with some modifications. So I just count those. That's only one thing. Okay. So in case of normal enhancer, typical enhancer, so I take the red color now. The activation of the target gene will follow the typical curve, which is like this. Okay. And it reaches the steady state. That's the steady state. And in case of super enhancer, this activation is sigmoidal, switch-like thing, step function. Okay, this is like a step function, right? There is a switch. So there is a switch-like activation of the target gene. That's another thing. So if you fit in the, so how do we know that this is the case? Through Hill's equation. The thing that we have plotted here, you can change the n over here based on how many sites are out here. So then the whole x would change accordingly, right? So that's the way we fit it in the Hill's equation. Now, why is that so? Why do we have this switch-like thing? Anyone? When you have number of factors out there, n factors, let's say. Where else do you see this kind of curve in biology? Do you know something called cooperative protein folding? Anyone? You need to type, and I think that's very inconvenient for the instructors. So the typical thing is if you plot the temperature here and the percentage unfolded protein on the y-axis, what you find is that suddenly the protein unfolds right at certain temperature. That's because of, and the same way if you try to simulate the folding of protein, suddenly initially something folds and then everything folds up because one folding event cooperates with the next one. What really happens in this case? Let's say, what is cooperative thing in this case? Think about thermodynamics. So you have number of sites over there, right? So let us say that there is I'm trying to give some cartoon over here. Let's say that initially this is your DNA, and this DNA would be moving, right? It's kind of mobile. And in fact, you would learn in later classes that it's actually DNA which is going to protein C to protein coming to DNA. So let us say that for the initial one protein, let's say OCT4 or some other protein came here, okay, and there will be an entropic barrier. Why? Because the molecules are moving, right? The binding sites on each end is mobile, so there is an entropic barrier, right? Entropic barrier. There is a higher entropy out there, entropic barrier. So I'm only giving entropic explanation because it's easy to understand. There is an enthalpic explanation also. What happens is that once this barrier has trespassed, the first molecule is bound. Let's say this is bound now. This becomes relatively less mobile, right? This is less mobile, which means that the energy barrier, entropic barrier is less now. So the more molecules comes, more stabilized it is, and for these molecules, the new molecules, it is easy to bind the stable complex because energy barrier has gone down. Sorry, entropic barrier has gone down, right? Number one. Okay, and this leads to this cooperativity actually leads to the step-like thing. So initially, if you have lower concentration of X, these are your X, right? Concentration, these molecules, right? If the concentration is less in the beginning, there is no activation, right? And the moment it reaches to the threshold concentration, there is a sudden activation, right? So this event of entropic trespassing the entropic barrier happens suddenly, and all of molecules comes together and bind, just like cooperative protein folding, and that's why sudden activation happens. Okay, just compare the whole event to cooperative protein folding, you will understand it. Okay, that's just one thing which is important to understand, that there is a threshold like activation, and why is that important functionally? Why is this switch-like thing? I think most of you are biologists here. You can tell me better. Switch-like thing is actually important in order for developing to regulation. You cannot have a grade of a particular gene expression level of a particular gene. Uh, when you're deciding the fate of a cell, either it should be, let's say, mesenchymal cell or neuronal cell or whatever. Okay, so it has to decide the fate, either yes or no, right? Either this cell or that cell. So, and that has to be certain. If you make a whole grade, there is a waste of energy out there. So switch-like thing is very common in many processes. The environmental induction needs sudden activation. Okay, so many genes, many developmentally triggering genes, the things which triggers the developmental fate of the cells and triggers the sudden activation through environmental activation, they show the switch-like behavior. Okay. One thing, what is the other advantage of these complexes on super enhancer in the binding process? Let us say this is your typical enhancer, right? Only one. This is your super enhancer over here. As you see that very few molecules will be binding, so this will be reversible. This is going to be reversible process, right? It will unbind also. So this will be very unstable complex, very stochastic complex, okay, which will lead to lower expression, as you can see already. I have shown it as lower expression. This will be more stable one. because this will become irreversible. Not irreversible, more stable basically. Because of trespassing the entropic barrier, it has become more immobile, right? So that leads to higher expression over here. Okay, so this is basic biology. The typical Higgs equation and the transcriptional regulation also follows the same thing. Whether this binding happens over here or at the promoter, the dynamics is same. Okay, and at promoter it has been worked out extensively in systems biology. So I just wanted to introduce you the super enhancer thing. Although conceptually there is nothing new here. Okay, when you each unit, what about the cases where you have only two of these are activating the transcription or three of them are activating or four? Do we have those cases? We don't know yet. So if those cases exist, that there are different combinations which are being utilized in different contexts, different promoter activation, different cell types, then we have more complexity here, and then there's nothing new about super enhancer. Even if they are different from typical enhancer, we knew them as, let us think about these notebook. We were just renaming the earlier thing. For example, we still use here phase separation. In the process of transcription, we knew them for almost 30, 40 years, and we had some other name, and I'll tell you that name in future classes. What do we used to call them? Phase separated complex that we call now, we used to call something else. We are just changing the names. Okay, so this is one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing is, since we are talking about chromatin types, super enhancer is one type. Sorry, this is another class content is coming up here. Yeah, so we were looking at various combinations of spin modifications here, right? For example, promoters are having these many marks, right? So many acetylation marks, there were a couple of methylation marks. The fundamental question that I wanted to ask is that why do we need so many marks just for activation? Why one or two are not sufficient? So the question is, why multiple marks? Part of this question you might already answer based on what we just discussed in the previous slide.
So I think these marks are not mutually exclusive. I mean, like one, for instance, a methylation is actually inviting the deacetylation and so on. So I mean deacetylation. So one is dependent on
That's
another.
not, they are, I didn't say that. I said why multiple marks. So I already gave you the example. I said that look at here, promoters are having multiple marks. So all of them are activating whichever I wrote here, right? So let us talk about activation. Why activation of transcription at promoters or even at enhancers? Why do we need multiple activating marks and multiple repressing marks? Why not one or two marks?
just to shift between their functions.
What function? I didn't get it.
Like in the enhancer like promoters, it is just the 2-methyl group which is shifting a promoter into an enhancer.
No, no. Let us. Okay. I think I'm not able to convey the thing. Let us say I'm only talking about promoters. Okay. Promoters. Now, promoters have the following marks. Let me write it down based on the their prominence, relative prominence. This is there, right? And there could be also some phosphorylation and ubiquitination marks also at this set point. So why do we? These are all histone modifications, right? And all of them are activating. and they are marking only one element as promoters. So why do we need these multiple masks? And I already said I have answered this question maybe few minutes ago, right? Well, the same thing, cooperativity, right? Cooperative binding. Okay, so the one thing is that cooperativity. The other thing is you can also, so these are I guess a bit speculative things. Robustness also, right? Speculative but educated speculation, right? Robustness means that, let us say, one of the machinery, one of the acetylation or methylation marks, some of these marks are actually not properly working or what can be